Too emotional. That's what Marcus said when I found the receipts in his jacket pocket. The restaurant smelled like garlic and broken promises. I could hear couples laughing at nearby tables, clinking glasses over anniversary dinners. My hands trembled as I held the credit card statement. My heart pounded against my ribs. I folded the papers quietly, slipped them back where I found them, and chose silence. No confrontation, no tears. I stood up, smoothed my black dress, and walked to the bathroom. 10 minutes later, the restaurant went quiet and a gasp cut through the evening air. Here's what happened next. The Italian place on 5th Street had been our spot for 3 years, the kind of restaurant where they remembered your order and saved the corner table by the window. Marcus had suggested dinner there to talk things through after our fight the night before. The same fight we'd been having for months. Him staying out late, me asking questions, him calling me paranoid and emotional. I'd driven there alone, replaying his last text in my head. Can we just have a nice dinner without the drama, Jess? I'm trying here. That was all I ever was to him. Drama, emotion, too much feeling in a world that preferred numbness. Growing up, I was the sensitive one in my family. The one who cried at movies, who felt everything too deeply. My mom said it was a gift. My ex-husband said it was exhausting. Marcus, at first, said it was what made me special. You feel everything so intensely, he'd whispered during our first month together. It's beautiful. Beautiful became burdensome somewhere between year 1 and year 2. The last time I tried to have a serious conversation was 3 weeks ago. I remember the apartment smelling like his cologne and leftover takeout. Marcus was getting ready for another work dinner when I found a woman's earring under the couch cushion. Not mine. When I asked about it, he laughed like I was being ridiculous. You're being paranoid again, Jess. Sarah from accounting probably dropped it when everyone came over for the game. But Sarah had never been to our apartment. When I pointed that out, his face changed. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You analyze everything. You make mountains out of molehills. You're too emotional about everything. Too emotional. Like feeling was a character flaw. That night, I learned there are 2 kinds of being silenced, being told to be quiet and being told your voice doesn't matter. Both feel like suffocation. I thought about that conversation as I sat down, ordered water, and watched him perform concern. You look tired, babe, he said, reaching for my hand. Maybe you should take it easy at work. All that stress isn't good for you. I almost laughed. Stress. Like that was the problem. Dinner passed in small talk and forced smiles. He told me about his day, his meetings, his plans for the weekend. Golf with clients, he said. Important networking. I nodded and cut my pasta into smaller pieces, each bite tasting like pretense. When he excused himself to take a work call, I saw his phone light up on the table. A text from Michelle, with a heart emoji. Can't wait for tomorrow night. I stared at the screen until it went dark, then reached for his jacket hanging on the chair. The credit card statement was folded in the inside pocket. Charges I didn't recognize. The Ritz downtown, 3 different times this month. Victoria's Secret, amounts that made my stomach drop. A jewelry store I'd never been to. Each line item was a nail in the coffin of 3 years. When he came back, sliding his phone into his pocket, I was holding the papers. He saw them immediately. His face went through a series of expressions: surprise, guilt, then irritation. Jess, what are you doing going through my things? I looked at him for a long moment. Who's Michelle? His jaw tightened. Michelle is a client. A very important client who could change everything for my career. These dinners, the gifts, it's all business. Business? I held up the Victoria's Secret receipt. What kind of business requires lingerie? He ran his hand through his hair, that gesture I used to find endearing. You're twisting this. You're being emotional again, making something out of nothing. There it was. That word. Emotional. I found her earring 3 weeks ago, I said quietly. I found these receipts tonight. I'm not being emotional. I'm being observant. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. Listen to yourself. You're spiraling. This is exactly what I mean, you can't just let things be. You have to create drama where there isn't any. For a moment, I said nothing. The restaurant hummed around us, other couples enjoying their evenings, unaware that ours was ending. Behind him, the waiter was lighting candles at empty tables, preparing for the next round of hopeful diners. Because unlike you, I don't need an audience to know who I am. I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone, opening the camera app. His face paled. What are you doing? Being emotional, I said, taking a photo of the receipt spread on the table. Being dramatic. Being everything you said I was. Then I did something I'd never done before. I posted the photo to my Instagram story with a simple caption: when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. I tagged him. The color drained from his face. Delete that. Jess, delete that right now. Why? Worried your clients might see it? Worried Michelle might see it? He reached for my phone. I pulled it away, stood up, and straightened my dress. Around us, I could feel other diners glancing over, drawn by the tension. You always said I was too emotional, I said, my voice calm now. But emotion isn't weakness, Marcus. It's honesty. And honestly, I'm done. I picked up my purse and started walking toward the door. Behind me, I heard his chair scrape against the floor. Jess, wait. You're embarrassing us both. Let's talk about this at home. I turned back. He was standing now, his face flushed, tie slightly askew. The perfect image of a man losing control. There is no home anymore, I said. And I'm not embarrassing us. I'm revealing us. The hostess watched as I walked past, her expression carefully neutral. Outside, the night air hit me like freedom. I could hear Marcus behind me, his voice rising. This is insane, Jess. You can't just walk away from 3 years because you found some receipts. I stopped at my car, keys already in my hand. Watch me. He caught up as I opened the driver's side door. Please. Let's go home and talk about this like adults. I looked at him one more time. 3 years of my life, standing there in a rumpled shirt in desperation. Adults don't lie to each other for months. Adults don't call their partners too emotional for having feelings. I never meant. Yes, you did. I got in the car. That's the problem. As I drove away, I could see him in my rearview mirror, standing alone under the restaurant's glow, probably already typing an explanation to Michelle about why their plans might need to change. By the time I reached my apartment, my phone was buzzing with notifications. The Instagram post was being shared, commented on, liked by friends who'd been waiting. Marcus. I watched it buzz against the glass table and chose silence again. Not the silence of submission this time. The silence of decision. A text came through: we need to talk. This is crazy. You're acting crazy. I typed back, no, I'm acting free. Then I blocked his number. The next morning brought clarity with the sunrise. I woke up in my own bed, in my own space, without the weight of someone else's lies pressing down on me. The apartment smelled like coffee and possibility. 3 days later, Michelle called. She'd found my number somehow, probably through mutual connections. Her voice was shaky, uncertain. I didn't know about you, she said. I mean, not really. He said he was single, that he'd just gotten out of a long relationship. I saw your post and... God, I feel sick. I could have been angry. The old me would have been. The emotional me. Instead, I felt something like pity. How long? I asked. 4 months, she whispered. I thought I was the only one. I almost laughed. Of course she did. Marcus was good at making women feel special, chosen, unique. Right up until they became inconvenient. There are probably others, I said gently. Men like Marcus don't usually limit themselves to two. She started crying. I listened, remembering how it felt to discover that your reality was built on lies. When she finished, I gave her some advice that surprised us both. Don't apologize to me. And don't let him make you feel crazy for asking questions. Trust your instincts. They're not emotional, they're intelligent. After we hung up, I realized something had shifted. The anger was gone, replaced by something cleaner. Relief, maybe. Or just the satisfaction of knowing I'd stopped explaining and started acting. That night, I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. A woman named Sarah from Marcus's office. I saw your post, she wrote. I need to tell you something about those work dinners. There were never any clients. Just him and whatever woman he was seeing that week. I wanted to say something before, but I didn't want to get involved. I'm sorry. I stared at the message for a long time. All those months of being called paranoid, emotional, dramatic, and I'd been right about everything. My instincts had been screaming the truth while he'd been teaching me to doubt them. I wrote back, look, I know things ended badly between us, but maybe we could grab dinner sometime. Talk things through. I almost smiled. Still trying to rewrite history, still believing he could charm his way back to center stage. No thank you, I said. I don't explain myself anymore. His face flickered with the old irritation. You're still holding grudges. Still being what, Marcus? He caught himself, maybe remembering how our last conversation had ended. Nothing. Never mind. The woman returned from the bathroom, slipping her hand into his. She looked at me curiously, probably wondering who I was and why the air had suddenly grown thick with tension. I stood up, gathered my things, and looked at her. Trust your instincts, I said quietly. They're not emotional. They're right. As I walked away, I heard Marcus's voice rising slightly, beginning an explanation she probably didn't want to hear. Some women need to learn the hard way. I had been one of them. But I wasn't anymore. At Marcus's favorite restaurant, I was called too emotional. This morning, I'm sitting in my therapist's office, being called insightful. Same feelings, different reception. Back then it was weakness. Now it's strength. Sometimes the loudest revenge isn't a scream or an argument. It's the sound of your own footsteps walking away from someone who never deserved your explanations in the first place. They thought I'd always stay, apologizing for feeling too much. But I don't apologize.